Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. Today I have Robb Patton from Funky Farmer Microgreens located in Charlotte, North Carolina. Thanks for joining us today, Robb.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah, so this chat with you, we're going to talk a little bit more about your business and kind of give people that are either already other microgreen growers around the country, around the world, or people that are deciding to get into microgreen production, kind of a little bit more of an insight as to how a business like this runs. And so could you start off by telling me a little bit more about your background, how you got started in farming?
Yeah, so we started right when COVID started pretty much. So I've been a commercial pilot for 23 years, and obviously I was done for that period. My dad had been playing around with microgreens for probably 5 years,
Mm.
just kind of hobbyist, and he'd been eating them, pretty regularly. So we decided during that period to go ahead and start trying to play with them. We had eaten them before, but never grown any. So we bought some materials and we kind of started growing, and we have an event venue that's adjacent to our home. So at the same time, we kind of started a market on weekends, like a little food market on weekends. With friends of ours had organic things that they couldn't get rid of. So we kind of did that. It was every Saturday. So some of our friends were like, yeah, we would like some microgreens. And then it went from our friends getting microgreens to other people, and it kind of grew from there. And then when the shopping opened back up and whatnot, the microgreens really didn't subside. So we decided to kind of make it a thing at that point.
Great. Yeah, your story is a little interesting in terms of timing, because a lot of, they were started prior to COVID. When COVID hit, it was like a really big downfall for them. But since you started during COVID, what was your experience like doing that? Like, I guess since it was already like a challenge when you started, did it kind of just start as a challenge and it's been getting better since, or was it started, it got worse, and then before it got better?
Actually, if it were a stock, it would be like a steady upward trend, I
Yeah.
guess, because we started for ourselves. And when we kind of got our hands wrapped around the things that we could grow that were in our wheelhouse and we're not, it was just a big R&D thing, the whole experience.
Mm.
So, and then it was the friends and family, and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, these are good. And then we started doing that market on Saturdays. Production just really kept growing. So the biggest part for us was the R&D, because we were kind of, literally, we didn't have much figured out. We were just YouTubing and leaning on that mainly, and then articles and things like that. But we were selling, I think the third or fourth weekend of our little pop-up market, we were selling 16 trays of microgreens, and we really didn't have our hands wrapped around packaging or media or any of that stuff, watering process, lighting. It was just trying to figure it out, and it was growing the whole time. And so as we've grown and moved past the COVID period and things like that, and we also at the same time have figured out the process and limiting our variables tremendously, and it's just been kind of growing all along. So yeah, like I said, if it was a stock, it would be like a slowly upward trend.
That's great. And then, so since you were doing a lot of, the R&D and kind of trial and error as you were going, as you were selling and growing, what would you, now that COVID is kind of, behind us now, what would you say is your biggest challenge these days?
Oh, let's see. I would say education of customers. So the challenge we look at is from a production standpoint or from a customer standpoint. And from the customer standpoint, it's purely education. So finding your avatar microgreen eater is kind of what we focus on. And we've done that in many ways, and you could spend millions of dollars on marketing, but really getting to that avatar is important. And we are there in a lot of cases, but there's a giant market outside of that avatar that doesn't know about microgreens, or doesn't put the weight on the benefits of microgreens maybe that the avatar would. So that's one of the big challenges. The other production side of the challenge would be scaling. So as you scale your grow space triple or quadruple, if you have a good process down, then you can just take that and multiply it times 4 or whatever. But there's still hiccups along the way when it comes to scaling as well.
Right. Well, out of curiosity, off the top of your head, what would you say is like the percentage of people that come up that don't know what microgreens are?
So our biggest customer right now is a CSA.
Mm.
Okay. She does tons of educating. I would say the percentage that she deals with that don't know what microgreens are 70.
Oh, wow.
70% of her customers, and she has a large number of customers around the Charlotte area, don't see the benefits. They may know about them, but they know in terms of a garnish. Like most of the restaurants are just garnish, right? So, which is great. And that starts the conversation. But in general, they don't really know the benefits of it. And I would say it's a large percentage.
In my head, this is a little off topic, but I've always thought about pitching microgreens as kind of like a natural way to get your vitamins every day. I think you just put in whatever you want. It doesn't have to specifically be a steak or something like that. You can literally get whatever. So
yeah, it's a mindset. And then so it's hard to believe really that something so small can pack such a punch. And so it's kind of like a used car salesman. You're like, no, really, and then you have to pull up the studies that colleges have done and other institutions have done where it's like, here it is. It's been cited 400 times.
Yeah.
So that's the part of the education that's challenging.
And then what varieties in terms of number, I guess, are you growing right now?
We do about 12 varieties, and they're mostly brassica family. We do some mustards, some arugulas, with the number 1 being the broccoli still, number 2 being red acre cabbage. And what that tells us about our customer is they're eating them for the benefits, not the garnish, right? So we don't have the amaranth customers, and we don't have the wasabi mustard customers necessarily. We have the people that are seeing the benefits. And we do have another grower in Charlotte. The family's great. They do a great job. They grow everything under the sun. And we just chose to stick to these 12 because of our main customer.
Right. Have other customers asked you to grow other varieties, or are you kind of going with the demand essentially right now?
We've had a lot of customers ask us to grow different kinds, and we have done that. But normally what I do in that case, I'll actually send them to my competitor because she does an outstanding job of playing and, creatively coming up with ways to grow it and chasing the grow stages and things like that. We're more honed in on these. We know what works. We know how to do it. We've limited, I'm not going to say all of our variables, but a tremendous amount of them. And we chose to go with not the farmer's market. We chose to go with the customer that eats them for the benefit of their health, rather than, also we chose not to go with a lot of restaurants for the same reason. The garnish thing and all that's awesome. The other company in Charlotte does an outstanding job of that. We don't want to really go in that market.
Got it. Yeah, makes sense. And then where are you currently, besides the CSA, are you currently selling anywhere else?
Yeah, we have individuals. Like I said, we have an event venue. And so a lot of our customers do porch pickup, where we will set up their particular cooler, and it will be on the actual front porch of this. We have an old farmhouse in the venue. So they'll pull up to the old farmhouse, and it'll be labeled, and they just grab their deals and take off. And that, I would say that is almost half of our sales.
No, awesome. And then they'll bring the cooler back, and then you'll reload it. Yeah, I love that. That's a great way to kind of be more sustainable with like the packaging and of it, so you just reuse that cooler. So that's great. No need for shipping boxes or Amazon.
No, we're actually, the scale of that is we're going to get a 16 cubic foot freezer
Mm,
and wrap it like it's an old trunk. So it looks old wood, rustic. And
mm.
that will be the next stage of what's happening right now.
Oh, very cool. And you just store all the products in there.
Right. Right. And they just come pick it up and it's labeled in the whole 9 yards.
Mm. But do you have to, so do you have to physically be there or they can pick it up whenever they want?
Whenever.
Right.
Yep, we have cameras throughout the property, and then so we did a couple, which nobody's going to steal microgreens. So we have that, and we could take payment digitally. So
Mm.
basically, their thing is labeled. So we go from the grow space to we take a shipment over whenever they're going to pick it up, and it's just there for them whenever. After work is the main time, and people's schedules are crazy, so they can
Mm.
come all throughout the day or whenever evening.
Awesome. Very cool. And then prior to utilizing the veg bed grow mats, what were you using in the beginning when you were doing R&D and stuff like that?
Okay, so it was a train wreck, really. I don't. You can watch a lot of things on YouTube, and they're awesome. 3 easy steps to build a Lamborghini or whatever. And until you start working on the actual thing, it's totally different. So we started off with cocoa core, which I ordered a brick. This was COVID. You couldn't go anywhere and do anything.
Mm.
So I ordered a brick that was like a brick of a house. You had to do a bomb to get it loosened up or anything like that. They didn't show that on YouTube either. I ruined like 2 knives trying to get that thing cut. So we tried that. And my dad, as I said, he's been growing it for around 5 years. He used all kinds of things too, like jute and hemp and all that. So we started using hemp, and it wasn't working. That we used that predominantly until we found you guys.
Mm.
And so the soil did not interest us at all, and still doesn't, because of the way the FDA looks at soil. And the same thing with cocoa core, it's just messy, and you end up washing the greens several times and having some loss because of washing the greens, and now they're heavy and could wilt, and
Mm.
several problems with soil. So we wanted to stay away from that at all costs, really.
Got it. Very cool. And then, well, I guess that I was going to ask you like how the mats help you, but you kind of explained how it's helped you. So that's really awesome. And I thank you for those kind words. And then, do you have any tips for growers or potential future growers that are looking to get into the microgreen business?
Yes.
Mm.
So in my industry, and my wife is also commercial pilot. So the way we started this, if you see the charts that we have to track humidity and temperature and all this stuff, we use spreadsheets on spreadsheets on spreadsheets. They're easy to write down, so it's not arduous, but that's been also a process. So I would say limit your variables. In our industry, that's what I get paid for, to limit the variables flying the airplane. So microgreens, no different. That's why we're using your product. Your product, when you see something going sideways, you can see it immediately with VegBed. Immediately. If you have webbing, if you have anything happening, you can see it right now, mold or whatever it is. And with that ability to limit your variables, it makes it way easier to hone in on efficiency.
Mm.
Because you can spend, I know there's growers out there that spend all day washing trays, when if they just thought about what they were doing, they could do it in a manner that cuts in third.
Mm.
So there's things like that, things like Temp Stick. Okay, the Temp Stick folks have an app, and I fly all over the world. I can be in Europe and see what the humidity, or I get an alarm saying, hey, the humidity is a little high, especially during this season. Where I am in Charlotte, it's literally in the past month been 40 and 80, and it's been 90% humidity, and it's been 10% humidity. So chasing that in your grow space is really important. And I would say just little things like that. Limit your variables to the maximum that you can. And your product, I mean, really helps with that.
That's really good advice. So thank you for sharing that. But outside of just the cleanliness portion, helping kind of like optimize your flow and limiting variables, was like sustainability and biodegradability important to you with like considering using VegBed as well?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many options out there. And I would say, if anything else, we didn't start with you guys. We started with 9 different, you just keep trying stuff and you eventually get to, I don't know why everybody's not using veg bed really, but because it's something that limits all your variables and it's not a screen that you have to go spend. We think about the time and being nice to the earth and all those things. But if you're using a screen, how much water are you using and soap and all that stuff to keep that screen clean again? Where we use veg bed and then we can put that in the compost, and then your veg bed gets actually used in a flower garden on our event venue. So it's like a symbiotic relationship, really. It really works well.
That's awesome. I didn't know that you were doing that as well. That's super cool to hear. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's whenever I talk to other farmers that are like considering switching over, I think the thing that they don't think about is when they're like the smaller guys that, maybe are doing like 10 trays or whatnot a week, they can manage the cleaning, right? But when you're getting up to like 50, 100, 200, 300 trays a week, it's really difficult to clean all of that, unless, like, especially by yourself. You're gonna have to hire somebody. It's gonna take you a couple hours.
Yeah.
And I know people that they leave trays purposely unclean just because they don't want to do it. It's like the last thing they want to do on their mind. It's like a pile of dirty trays, right? So that's definitely something that, not just you, but I think the other microgreen growers have to think about as they scale up. How is this going to look operationally wise? How am I going to end up cleaning, seeding, harvesting, and stuff like that? So
yeah.
Then,
I've thought about, I actually reached out to, this was probably last year, I reached out to Bootstrap and I said, look, if you guys were to come out with any kind of tray washer, I'll be the best R&D, like, just, hey, I know enough people, whatever, just get it out there. I would like to see something connected to a pressure washer because most all of us who use pressure washers. So you could just use a tip into a pressure washer and have it do something. But there's always innovation. And what I love about the microgreens culture is we're all very helpful. Nobody's really guarding their secrets. Like I said, I send people to my competition all the time. There's enough to go around, really. You could use literally a tray of microgreens, a 10-20 tray of microgreens in one microgreen salad for one person for dinner. There's enough to go around.
Yeah,
for sure.
And then I remember you mentioned a little bit about the large freezer unit, but are there any other plans that you have in the future with Funky Farmer?
Well, that'll be the first one. And we're scaling in little pieces where we can manage it easily because I am out of town a good bit and my wife is a muralist and runs the event venue. So with all of those elements, the next step is a 53-foot grow space. And that'll start in sections. That'll be our next expansion if we go that route. Right now, we're about 90% capacity in our current grow space. So that'll be a decision we make when we're maxed out.
Do you mean like a container or just an expansion?
Yes. A tractor trailer. We want to go with a tractor trailer because it's easier to insulate and you don't lose so much room as you do with a container with the corrugated parts. And it's easier to wire. There's just a lot of easier things. And we live on 75 acres and we're our gross. So it's not like my wife is a muralist, so it'll have Funky Farmer all down the side of it. It'll be cool. But that's the direction we want to go to. So we already have that mocked up and drawn up. It'll depend on when we get to max capacity if we decide we want to grow to that level.
Got it. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I think that's all the questions I have right now. And I just want to thank you again, Rob, for your time and giving some more insights into your business, how you started, and really good tips for growers for sure. Definitely, I think people are going to like listening to that and find that very helpful and useful. Is there any other? How can people find you or reach out or come to your store?
We have a website, funkyfarmermicrogreens.com, Instagram, Facebook, all the regular stuff. But yeah, any questions? I just helped a little girl with a high school project. She was doing a project on microgreens. And so anything at all. I mean, like I said, it's a great culture. If you find somebody doing something like you want to do it, usually reach out and you'll get a response for sure.
Oh, and if anybody's in around your area that wants to stop by the event space, what's the address that they can?
Oh, that is Abide a While Acres.
Okay.
Abide a While Acres. Yeah, that's the name of it. We're in
Okay, so
Northwest
they could-
Charlotte.
Got it. They could just Google that and it'll pop up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, perfect. All righty. Hold on. I'm just gonna-